Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the June 3rd regular Des Moines City Council meeting to order. Will Councilmember Bangs please lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please let the record show that all council members are present. Is there any written correspondence or public comment?
Thank you, Mayor. We received three written public comments. Excuse me. Marilyn Beach, Masonic Home, Josh Johnson, water access at Daisy Sanju Garden and Orchard, and Rick Johnson on Redondo parking lot. And no one has signed up to give a public comment.
Thank you. With that, that takes us forward to our city manager's report. So at this point, I will turn the microphone over to City Manager Michael Mathias.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to do something that we've not done for a while, and it was a function of COVID literally preventing us from going beyond certain constraints relative to issues that we could bring to council. But we typically have done this in the past, and we're going to do a PowerPoint presentation to the council from every department, kind of highlighting the activities of those departments. There's a number, as you know, there's a number of different pieces to city government. Our staff intends to go relatively quickly through this. We'll certainly entertain questions when it's over. So with that, we'll start with the city manager's department, essentially. And what we've been doing, I mean, this is just such a tiny dynamic, but primarily COVID management and management under crisis, and at the same time, trying to create innovation. And I think you'll see throughout these reports how much innovation, how people on our staff have risen to the challenge. And that can also be said, I think, of the council in terms of our response to COVID in the best possible way. And I'm almost hesitant to say this, but we've had very, very small number of infections in City Hall. Police have had more as a result of being first responders, and there's been some others based on anomalies of people traveling and so forth. But our participation in the Emergency Operations Center, I think the fine work that our staff has done as a whole, and you'll see now plans for recovery. Shannon's done a great job of informing us and keeping us on path. So that's been one huge set of obligations and responsibilities, and coordination with other agencies, jurisdictions, federal government, state government, local public health officials. I've also worked beyond that. If you could go back up, Bonnie. Yeah, thank you. A lot of focus on economic development aspects of the marina. We were very fortunate to get additional resources from the state, thanks to Senator Kaiser and Representative Orwell, members of the 33rd and the 30th, who we will invite in later in the summer, talk about the legislative session. But we're moving forward with that. We've been working on the marina, the water side redevelopment. We've had exploratory discussions about what passenger ferry service could possibly look like. And we're hopefully in June going to release the RFQ for marina development through public-private partnership with the developer. And finally, the last thing, not the least, but the last challenge that we faced that's been right in our face has been to retain financial solvency in the midst of this pandemic. And we've been very successful at doing that. I think a lot of precautions and discipline we've instituted previously have lent themselves to securing our financial position and securing our financial safety. And in many regards, I think that's the greatest thing we can do for our community, for our residents, for our public, is to make sure that we're solvent and capable of moving forward, taking advantage of opportunities. I'll talk a little more later about the American Rescue Fund, but just assuring that financially we're in a safe place. And that's all I'm going to say about the manager's office right now. I'll move on to human resources.
Good evening, Mayor.
Sorry.
It is my pleasure to share with you some of the initiatives that the HR department is currently working on. Work continues on getting our HRS and payroll timekeeping system implemented. We're currently at the place where we're starting to work with our stakeholders to develop new processes and procedures. We're also doing some data mining, which essentially is just a pretty fancy way of saying that we've been compiling data from multiple sources, auditing it, and configuring it in a way to tell us a story about our data. We've also been working on developing new recruitment strategies that attract top talent. And I'd like to say we've had some success in that area. We were able to hire Shauna Thomas. She's a limited term HR analyst. We brought her on to assist during the implementation of the new system and also to help with the day-to-day operations. Shauna previously worked at Pierce Transit, and she has experience both in human resources and risk management. She's also a girls high school basketball coach for Lincoln High School, and we are extremely happy to have her here at the city. Shauna, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, AJ. As AJ previously told you, I come from Pierce Transit, in which I did work into the recruitment, risk, and human resources offices. I originally was at State Farm for 11 years. And prior to that, I'm from Ohio, go Buckeyes, in which I graduated from Wilmington College. I currently, when I'm not enjoying my time at the City of Des Moines, am a basketball girls coach at Lincoln High School in Tacoma. I've been at the City of Des Moines since April 16th, I believe, was my start date, and I have enjoyed every day that I've worked there. It is a true, loving, welcoming committee, and I'm looking forward to the great implementations that are put in place at the City of Des Moines.
Thank you, Shauna. So, part of working on developing our new recruiting strategies, some of that includes establishing some hiring metrics, building sourcing pools. We've been working on revising our job postings and listings, adding pictures, making them more marketable. We're still working on the implementation of Onboard, which is an electronic onboarding system. And we're also going to be working on developing some recruitment and engagement videos for the city. The HR department is also part of the Safe Start Reopening Committee. And the primary function of that committee is to prepare recommendations for the city manager and development of our reopening plan. And what that will take is obviously preparing City Hall for reopening to the public, adjusting or developing new personnel policies for the new normal post-COVID, and ensuring we're compliant with any relevant regulations. Thank you.
The city clerk's office has been very busy over the last year working within the essential compliance with public government interface. And just a small list of things include preparation for materials and processes for council meeting through COVID, coordinate and schedule meetings and mostly utilizing Zoom, facilitate signatures for contracts and agreement. And we do that mostly electronically with people working remotely at the time. We are processing business licenses and assuring cash receipting is compliant with best practices. And of course, my favorite subject, public records statistics. We had 766 requests this year, January through May, and 779 requests for the same time period last year. Our public records analyst has started records management citywide, and she'll be working with various departments moving forward, getting them all put together and indexed and out of here. And of course, communications, city currents should be going out to every resident either today or tomorrow. And social media is, of course, ongoing for me all the time. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonnie. Let's go to community development. Susan.
Evening, Mayor, City Council. Community development continues also to be very busy, like most other departments. We are reviewing the state legislation that comes up. A lot of legislation during this last session was proposed related to growth management and development regulations. Although most of them did not pass, there are a couple that we are looking at related to affordable housing and emergency housing and some procedural things. We plan to give an update to the Economic Development Committee probably at the next meeting in June. We also continue to work on the King County Comprehensive Plan update, and that includes the countywide planning policies, which we have been involved with commenting and trying to guide some changes that are consistent with what we worked on in Vision 2050. We provide them data for our compliance. So we're looking at things like what densities did we achieve for each of our residential zones, and how are we doing related to our growth targets. We also work closely with the police department on the code compliance issues. We've had a number of recent ones related to critical areas, wetlands, steep slopes, things like that, in addition to the usual building type compliance issues. And of course, I'm sure you've all heard about the fire at Waterview Crossing recently, and our staff work closely with South King Fire, assessing the damage and assisting the owners to complete the permit applications for repairs. Development review continues very fast pace. We have heard from some of our applicants that they're dealing with availability and cost increases on materials, and that is causing sometimes a few delays. We continue to work on sound transit, and they're at the 90% review stage. We lately have been looking at their landscaping and tree requirements to make sure that they meet the code requirements, as well as the development review or development agreement that we've signed with them. Point by Vintage up on Pack Highway has finished their last post-tension deck pour, and they're ready to frame the remaining 5 wood frame stories. Wesley is continuing grading and installing their subgrade utilities. They're ready to construct the new building starting in September. The Des Moines Theater also finished their last post-tension deck pour, and next will be the framing of the remaining 2 stories. And kind of a newer one on our radar is the yard, which was formerly known as the Yard Arm Cavern. Our staff spent several hours on site with, in addition to South King Fire, advising the applicant and helping him to prepare the information needed for permit applications. And he plans to completely rebuild the interior of the restaurant and bar, as well as upgrade the landscaping and site work. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Let's move on to Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services. And I believe Nicole will be providing that.
No, I have that one until the end of the slide.
Okay, great.
So it's still
Thank
me.
you.
Yeah. We offer Parks, Rec, and Senior Services. It's been an interesting year, of course, because a lot of things changed as it did for other departments. But this department was probably one of the more heavily impacted. So we're trying to take advantage of the time that the center, the senior activity center is closed. And so we've recently worked with Public Works, who has gotten us a beautiful new floor installed. And there's a picture there of the new flooring. Once the new floor went in, the walls looked kind of dingy. So we started to think about getting some quotes for interior painting, and Scott Romano and Brandon have been working on that. We also plan to switch the drive-through lunch service to a walk-up service at the end of June. And I also wanted to mention the shredding event has become an annual event that's sponsored by our senior advisory committee. And that is now scheduled for Tuesday, June 8th, 10 to 2 at the Marina. We are working on planning for small group summer programming and working with the Highline School District to coordinate our programs related to that in the fall. Midway Park, we finished all the paperwork that we needed to do to have our grant reimbursement for the first fourplex that we've closed on, and that's the 22128 28th Avenue South. And demolition should be starting somewhere around June 7th, according to Public Works. And we are working with the food bank to continue the summer meal program in the parks, and that will start again on June 17th. And then the Parks, Rec, and Senior Services Master Plan is proceeding well, and Nicole Nordholm, our Assistant Parks, Rec, and Senior Services Director, will give you a more detailed overview of that process.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know you all received an email last week just about a little bit about the Parks, Rec, and Senior Services Master Plan update and how we are doing. I just wanted to let you know that we continue to meet twice a month with our consultant team, which is AHBL. And I think actually Councilmember Bangs asked what they stood for, so I got the names for you. It's Noel Adams, Hodson, Bissett, and Lindsay. So that makes up the AHBNL, since we all were curious. Back to the update. So the main part that we've been working on, which is really exciting, is the public participation. So we have a strategy that I sent out that's underway. Last week, Assistant Recreation Manager Kyle Ellers and myself joined a kindergarten class virtually at Midway Elementary School, which was really fun. We were fortunate enough to watch them present their final Parks Unit project. So they showed quite creatively what they desire in a park. They did just a great job, and along with our consultant team, we were able to sort of ask them questions about their favorite parks, what they like, and what they think needs improvement. The resounding answers were that they preferred a park that was close to their home, and they all want a water park to be built in our city. We also met with a youth volunteer group last week at Sanju Community Garden. We answered these high schoolers' questions and just maybe sparked a little bit of interest in parks and rec careers. We got input from them on what they want to see in parks, and the most thoughtful response from that outing was a clean, non-rusty play equipment for one of the high schoolers' baby sisters, which I thought was great. So yeah, for the next few weeks, we are planning to host a booth at the Farmers Market on June 12th, along with the consultants, and there'll be some interactive boards on display, as well as a chance for kind of questions and input that'll then be linked to our website. And then finally, we're planning for 2 open houses that will probably be a hybrid of virtual and in-person. One will be in July and one will be in September, and we will keep you all updated as we go.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Appreciate that. Let's move on to the court. We had the opportunity to hear the judge give a state of the court report. And this evening, Jennifer is going to fill us in on some additional information.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for letting us be present tonight. So just a few things that have definitely come down the pike, and we brought this up a couple weeks ago, was Senate Bill 5476 regarding drug possession. And we have gotten more details on that. And so we're working with our prosecutor and the police department to figure out how we can see how these impacts are going to affect us. And then also the other issue with King County implementing their filing standard changes, that's also going to be affecting us. The last thing that we continue to work on is innovation with our technology, with our virtual court. We're actually piloting, starting this week, a new technology software program for uploading evidence. And it's going to work in conjunction with our Zoom hearings for motions, trials, crime abatement cases. And this will allow us to make it easier for people to upload their evidence, either by email or even by a phone. And we're starting training this week and next week. So we're pretty excited to be piloting that program. It's a company out of California. Again, court continues to look at moving forward with technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Let's move on to our legal department, and Tara, our city prosecutor, is going to provide that update.
Yes, thank you, City Manager. And good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving me the chance to update you on the legal department and more specifically on the prosecutor's office. As the judge mentioned, I believe a few weeks ago, a filing backlog. Unfortunately, that is something that is being faced by every single prosecutor's office in the state. It was created because of the pandemic. But the good news is that in working with the court, and specifically Ms. Johnson, we've been able to schedule some more hearings. So we have been able to begin filing more criminal cases each week, which is helping us cut into that backlog. We have also hired a part-time Rule 9 legal intern, Jacob Gates, to help assist us with that as well. It is the hope that eventually, and sooner rather than later, we will get fully through that backlog and caught up to pre-pandemic levels. We have also begun charging the strangulation and exposing children to domestic violence charges that were recently adopted by city ordinance. I would also just like to thank the City Council for their thought and consideration on those matters and ultimately passing those ordinances. They are 2 extra tools that we can use to help address domestic violence in our community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Our finance department, is it Beth Ann or Jeff is going to provide an update?
Beth Ann.
Okay, thanks, Beth Ann.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. The Finance Department has completed the 2020 financial statements and our annual audit has started. This audit will include a single audit because of the federal money received under CARES Act in 2020. They're not on site. We're doing this remotely. And so right now the finance staff is being inundated with requests. And so they're quite busy responding to the auditor, but things are going well. We're also implementing the Munis HR payroll and financial systems, and our estimated go live date is January 1st, 2022. Working with the departments and HR. We're also working with File Local to improve the business license process. Finance took that over from community development, and I have to say that it wasn't a smooth transition. Part of it was COVID and our limited resources at year end. So we're coordinating with the other departments, and we've hired a extra hire student to help us with the backlog in processing, and community development and city clerk's office is being very good in helping us work through this process. And so that's what we've been up to.
Thank you, Beth Ann. I think we can't underscore enough the kind of exceptional job that finance has been doing in the midst of changing the HR payroll system, in the midst of an audit. They've just been doing a great job, and the pandemic, which has required a completely kind of different protocol on how we record hours associated with response to the pandemic, and which will be to some degree a determinant in the federal money we receive. So with that, thank you, Beth Ann. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Michael.
I think Katie will give our presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mayor and City Council member. I'm going to give you our presentation for the marinas changes that we've had. First off, we've had some staffing changes that have happened in our marina. And I'm going to introduce some of our new members. They are not on, but I believe they are actually still at work. So you may remember that Chandler Williams, who was working for the Parks and Rec Department, transferred down to us last year as a harbor attendant. And about April of this year, she transferred up into our office as an office specialist. And we are extremely grateful for that. Our new team members with our service and maintenance department, Chris Obervach, comes to us with an extensive background in commercial plumbing. His customer service skills come from years of being in the tire industry. Sean O'Keefe, who joins us with over 10 years in maintenance and customer service from the railroad profession. And Luke Lenehan brings with him an electrical, plumbing, and general construction background. Luke's customer service experience comes from working with Paul Allen's Vulcan Group. When you're down at the marina next time, if you see any of our new guys or even our tenure guys, you're more than welcome to say hi. They're always there. I'm happy to report that the marina is at 100% occupancy, and we have a waiting list for all size slips. We were about 2 months ahead of schedule this year for our slip rentals due to the boom in recreational boating that we had. Lastly, we replaced our outdated and non-supported dock access system. Those are our dock gates that our tenants use, with a new wireless system that was just implemented over the last few weeks. We really want to thank our IT department, Dale and Chris, for all their help with with the old system and keeping it up and running, and the help that they provided with implementing the new system. The boating season has definitely arrived, as you can all see with all the great weather that we've been having. So we're seeing a lot more traffic down there, both with boats and pedestrians. It's really been great to see things start to be more active and return to some sort of normalcy compared to the last year. So we look forward to seeing you all on the marina floor at some point this summer.
Thank you, Katie. I'd like to mention 2 other things the marina is taking responsibility for. One is doing a lot of outreach relative to the process of dock replacement in the future, and strategies to utilize to kind of enhance our marina. And at the same time, Katie and Ashley and others have been very involved in looking at our permitting for food trucks and how we can both simplify that, perhaps make it less expensive, and just facilitate food trucks in the city. With that, I'd like to move on to Public Works. Is that Brandon?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Michael. Good evening, council. Susan stole a couple items, so I don't want to belabor the activity floor, but one of the silver linings, I suppose, of COVID is that unoccupied buildings are great for floor redos. So that's moving along, as well as the before mentioned Midway Park demolition. Scott Romano is working well with the wrecking ball, and we're on to our next property there. Just a reminder to the council that property acquisition was 100% grant funded, and so we're excited to see the park expand yet again. And we'll have, after this property, we'll be focusing on the next fourplex to the south, which I believe the tenants are there through October, but so the demolition of that one will likely occur next spring. We've had our downtown planter program going. This will be year number 3, and this year we're going to be adding some hanging baskets. So those look to see those next week, and hopefully just enhance the downtown experience both on Marine View Drive and 7th as visitors and residents drive through our downtown. And I think one of the most exciting, long-awaited items is the up and coming bid award for our marina bulkhead. 2 weeks from tonight, we plan to bring forward an action for the council to approve the construction contract for the marina bulkhead. As noted there, we were awarded a $2 million grant for the second phase. So right now we are pulling together the the resources and a strategy to fund the entire construction, both phase 1 and phase 2. So that's really exciting. It'll save millions, it'll save time, and it'll also just impact the community and the marina area one time instead of two. So we're looking forward, and more to come on that in 2 weeks from this evening. So thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate that. I think one of the more exciting things about the state appropriation and the way that we've managed our resources is that it looks like we'll be able to do the entire marina at the northern section, all phase 1 and phase 2 at the same time, which will be less disruptive, potentially save us some money, and also provide the integrity of the infrastructure earlier than we might have planned had we had to phase it out. So that $2 million was extremely helpful, as was our bonding capacity. So with that, I'm going to go to emergency preparedness. And Shannon's job is she can never really stop at any one point and say, this is it. It's an ongoing process that involves lots of communication. And, I've said before, it's hard to imagine how anyone could do a better job being kind of thrown into the middle of this as an emergency preparedness manager, and to pick it up and run with it and help all of us. So Shannon.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Shannon Kirchberg, Emergency Preparedness and Safety Manager. Thank you for having me this evening. Just some quick remarks and quick updates for you. Currently, I'm co-chair and working with all of the departments on a Safe Start reopening plan for the city with recommendations to the city manager. All departments are represented, and we're putting everything together so we can present it in one concise package. We continue to monitor and report on the world, the nation, the state, and the country for COVID information. I continue to do daily updates to our directors, as well as posted on our city website. Washington State is currently predicting to be on pace to hit or exceed the 70% vaccination rate for June 30th for full reopening. Just so that you know, the state is currently sitting at 62.7%, with people that have received their first dose. Fully vaccinated is 54%. King County is on pace to achieve over 70% vaccination to remove that mask mandate, hopefully by June 30th. Currently, King County is sitting at 76% of the population 16 and over that has received their first dose, and 66.6% of the population has been fully vaccinated. The number one stumbling block for the county continues to be South King County. They continue to lag behind with our vaccination rates. We're currently sitting at about 54%, 47% for the city of Des Moines. Good news is Seattle King County Public Health is looking for pop-up vaccination opportunities at public events. They're going to the public instead of asking the public to come to them. I do know that the farmers market is working in conjunction with Seattle Southside Chamber to host a pop-up vaccination clinic, hopefully in the month of June. Tentative date would be the 12th, with a follow-up for the second vaccine on the 3rd. More to come to that once all of the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and approved by Ashley. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Shannon. I think one thing about Shannon's job is that it changes day to day in terms of strategies utilized by other jurisdictions, local jurisdictions, state, what the governor's office is up to. So to keep on top of all of it has been a blessing for us. And finally, last department, but not the least by any means, is our police department. Chief Thomas.
Yes, good evening. A few highlights from the police department. As you know, we got a co-responder grant this past year. It was a 6-month grant. It expires in June right now at the end of the month, but we have applied for an additional grant to carry us through for another year. We've been in contact with WASPIC, and we are in very good shape, very likely to get that. Two quick things about that. Number one, the City of Des Moines, again, is taking the lead for the entire South King County cities and region in this process, co-responder grant process, and Rochelle Sims has, for our city, done the bulk of the work with reporting and getting the grant. So a shout out to Rochelle on that. We're going to speak a little bit later in this meeting about the body camera pilot program. That is complete. We have also completed a recruitment video for the department to recruit police officers, and that project is completed and available for potential candidates to review. And then finally, we are actively using our drones. You can see in the two pictures down below all of those points of evidence that were located from a serious, actually fatality car accident up on Pacific Highway South. We were able to do this crime scene mapping in about 30 minutes or so with our drones. This would have taken 5 to 6 hours if we were to do it the old-fashioned way by hand before we went to the drone. So it's just a great example on how we're using technology to work smarter. And I think that's it, Michael, for us. Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
Actually, if I can have one more second, I was going to give some updates.
Right.
All of a sudden this week, we had a few things break loose, and I want to update the council on that. Effective June 1st, significant changes in the police department. Commander Mike Graddon has taken a lateral job with the Enumclaw Police Department to work as a commander with Enumclaw. And we were notified that Detective Sergeant Dave Moore intends to retire by the end of this month. So that will cause a couple of things. Number one, there will be an internal test for police commander to replace Mike, and then 2 sergeants will be promoted to replace whoever is promoted to commander, and that is Isaac Helmgren and Justin Kripe will both be promoted to sergeant. And Detective Sergeant Bill Shepard has an opportunity. He has applied for an opportunity to teach up at the police academy. And the benefit to both Detective Sergeant Shepard and the City of Des Moines is if he goes up there to teach, all of his wages and benefits are covered by the state on a contract. So it provides him the opportunity to get some additional service credits prior to him retiring, and it's fully paid for by the state of Washington. And effective June 16th, we have a lateral police officer from the State Gambling Commission that will be starting at the department. And just yesterday morning, we extended a conditional offer to a new hire police officer at the department. Now that concludes my report.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. A lot of changes, but one thing about Chief Thomas is, you know, kind of making lemonade out of lemons. I mean, he is making the most of the opportunities. We wish everyone who has chosen to change their path with us well in all of this. Commander Graddon, you've been a pleasure to work with, and we'll talk more about that in the future. The rest of the staff that are having changes occur, we couldn't be more pleased to see them have opportunities. So the chief also talked briefly about the body camera process. That there was a thorough presentation in public safety today. I'm sure the chair will update with any support she might need from Commander Gradden or the chief regarding the body cams. Basically, the concept is that we're moving forward with those, and we will come back to council at some point here with the budget amendment to pay for the body cameras. So with that, are there any questions on anything you've heard? We're happy to answer your questions now.
I see Councilmember Bangs, I see Councilmember Buxton, and Councilmember Harris. So we'll start with Councilmember Bangs.
Thank you, Mayor. Great presentation. Appreciate the update and the, even though it was brief on each person's part, it was to me very thorough. I have a question, however, for AJ. With Shauna's contract, limited term or limited duration, in my previous life, I knew what that meant. Can you tell me how long that's for?
Yes, I can. So currently, right now, the agreement is for 14 months with the option to potentially extend depending on what happens with the project.
Okay, thank you. As far as the finance report, I want to say, unfortunately, what happens is the better you are, the more work you get. So obviously you're extremely good at what you do, Beth Ann, but it's a compliment and a challenge at the same time. Thank you. We really appreciate all the work you've done, as we appreciate all the directors and the chiefs. So thank you all very much.
Okay, that takes us to Councilmember Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I agree with Louisa. Great presentation. I have always appreciated these to get a brief overview of what everybody does. Just helps every once in a while to know exactly where we're going. Little tidbits, every little bit helps. Congratulations to our different officers, those in the force. Again, I'm excited for all of you. I think that's great. In regard to the co-responder grant, I just wanted to clarify, is that the behavioral health response team? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, good. I wasn't exactly sure what that was. The shredding event, is that at the activity center?
No, that's going to be at the marina, down at the in the marina parking lot. Yeah.
It's okay. Outside it won't be covered. It'll be
outside. If for some reason the weather starts to look iffy, we'll get a tent set up, but the weather looks good for Tuesday. So
okay. And then trivia question, because this seems to be a popular topic on social media every time it comes up, is the yard arm. Any guesses on completion? If somebody asks, oh, I see there's construction going, when's it going to be open? Any guesses?
No, we really don't have that information. They haven't actually applied for anything. We've just met with them on site to try to give them some guidance as they prepare their permit applications. So I don't really have any estimates at this point. Sorry.
No worries. I know it's going to be asked. So thank you very much.
Okay, Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Two hopefully pretty quick things. Is the current city website, is it done like it was rethemed a couple of months ago? Is there ongoing work going on, or is that basically it for, at least this calendar year?
Bonnie, you want to respond to that?
Sure, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know the exact answer to that, but I believe that Dale and Chris are still doing some ongoing work. I know that they're putting together a portal for council members to access the complete agendas, minutes for committee, council meetings and things like that. So while we actually have a website probably is mostly complete, there's probably still some tweaking being done there, but in addition, we're also creating another portal throughout campus for you to get your packets instead of going to our website.
you kind of winked out there for a second. I apologize. Is there like an ETA when the portal part will, come online, or?
We wanted to use the kind of the break in summertime to get the portal for council up and running. So we were hoping by September we'd have that access for you guys. It's just a little bit of work, and we wanted to make sure we fine tuned it. And that break kind of gives us the time to pretend and play with it a little bit to make sure it's working right. The last thing we want to do is send you all a link and it's, not perfect. So
Yeah. Okay. So, and my second and last question is there any, average cost in terms of hours for a public records request? In other words, like how much average time does Sarah spend on that sort of thing? Have you guys ever worked that out?
yeah, each request is different in the time it takes. We do annually have to submit what we call a JLARC report. It's judicial, I don't know, big long word for basically public records reporting, how long it takes, what's the average time. But I can tell you that the simple reports, the ones that they want the copy of their accident report, it's simple. A few minutes here or there, just getting the report out of the system and sending it to them. But we have very intense, lengthy requests that take an enormous amount of time. We have to do searching, part of our records management is we have a lot of things in paper. We'll have to go over to the storage and literally search through boxes and boxes of documents to find what the person's looking for, if we even have it. So there's a lot of hunting going on that she does to find people are. So I can't tell you how much each time takes. It can be an enormous amount of time. It could take her 2, 3, 4 days.
No, I was just wondering if there was like a mean kind of a thing. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
However, wouldn't it be safe? That's a full-time position.
She's a full-time position, yes.
Any other questions on?
Yes, they're still coming, City Manager Mathias. I have Deputy Mayor Mahoney, then I saw Councilmember Bangs and Councilmember Nutt.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I just wanted to thank you for recognizing Rochelle for the work on the mental response team. I mean, she's the true champion in that regard, and I'm glad you recognized that she is. And then this is a little bit in jest, but is there any way we can create some kind of ordinance to keep Commander Graddon here for like ever? Because he will be missed, and I want to thank him.
Okay, that takes me to Councilmember Bangs and then Councilmember Nutting.
This is for Shannon, and the governor came out today with a long list of incentives for people to get a vaccination. Are we in some shape or form able to take advantage of those, or do we have to just fund it with what we have currently?
Are you talking about the lottery that was announced today for everybody that's gotten their COVID vaccine?
It wasn't just the lottery. There's a huge list of,
It is a massive list, and I will be scrubbing that in detail over the next few days, and I will report out on that for sure. But yeah, there is a lot out there, and we have a lot of opportunity, but to be candid, I have not had a chance to look at that as of yet, but you can guarantee I will be.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you, staff, for an amazing presentation and an update. You guys do a great job, and thank you for all you do and your team members. My question is for Chief Thomas. The company I keep's probably going to be asking me after this meeting is our good officer Kripe, once he's promoted to sergeant, is he still going to be the officer up at Mount Rainier?
No, he's not. He is going to be promoted to sergeant and go to the patrol division. And it's interesting that you bring that up, council member. Just briefly, Justin is so well respected by the Highline School District. They had essentially withdrawn or discontinued all all SROs in the schools for the Highline School District. The only one that they were going to keep was Justin. And Justin chose to go through the promotion process, and he was successful and got promoted to sergeant. At that time, the Highline School District made it known to us, notified us that they were going to discontinue the SRO program in their school district completely. So really speaks a lot towards the quality of person that Justin is. So
will absolutely be missed up there, and congratulations to them. Thank you.
Okay, I think that is all who raised their hand. Okay, seeing no one further, it's a little difficult to follow what everybody said. City Manager Matthias, you and your team, again, outstanding work. The bullet points, even on a busy PowerPoint slide, don't really paint the picture of all the work that everybody's gone through. And I think the city is very fortunate to have this team. And it's a testament when somebody's pulled to another city, for whatever the reasons are, it's a testament to what we did to help their career, because the better you are, the more of a commodity you become. So anyway, outstanding work. And I want to say thank you very much to you and all the team. Again, I'll echo, it was an excellent presentation. And I believe you have another item.
Thanks, Mayor. I just have two other items that won't take long. I want to give council an update on the American Rescue Fund. And I'm glad Beth Ann's sitting in. So please feel free to correct me, at least when I'm done though. But the idea is, so the American Rescue Fund is the federal literally bailout for impacts from COVID across the nation. And they published a document. The law itself was approximately 682 pages. And that's what came from the Congress. And so we carefully read that document. And much of it relates to different dynamics. I mean, are you talking, is it a tribal jurisdiction? Is it a local mental health center? Is it, all these different aspects? And then the Treasury Department issued guidance of 182 pages, which helped narrow down a little bit what was available through the federal allocation. So we read that. We've also received briefings going online with Government Finance Officers Association, with AWC, and we kind of narrowed it down to a couple of things. So I want to share those with you. There's two parts to the bill that are critical. One relates to revenue, one relates to expenditures. So right now, what we're trying to do is work our way through the revenue side of it. And the way it generally looks is that we can recover lost revenue based on 2019 numbers. Whatever 2020 was below those numbers, we can claim as lost revenue. And then there's some formulas going forward that identify future lost revenue based on about a 4% growth rate, how our revenues relate to that based on this 2019 kind of baseline. And so one thing we did conscientiously was we kept track of hours spent by staff on COVID. We've looked at all of the different ways that we've lost money, events, parks, our red light running, even money was significantly down. Just different aspects of that. So what we're trying to do is, so then once we identified that lost revenue, we were entitled to somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 million. So the amount that's counted as lost revenue is just literally goes in your general fund, and that can be utilized as approved, as directed to address impacts from COVID. At the same time, the additional $4 million is under jurisdiction based in the document and there are 4 different subject areas. And so we're looking at those, how that money could possibly be spent against those four bullet points. And then the earlier 3 million would help us kind of recover from COVID as a city. So what we're doing first is trying to determine precisely which of those 2 buckets between the lost revenue and the additional money for expenditures, where we are. And then what we intend to do is come back to council with that information, and we will then recommend to you a program of expenditures associated with that money and ask for your approval, do a motion of approval for the recommendation. So we hope to do that within, I would say, Beth Ann, hopefully we could come back to council at least within 30 days or so. And the other thing is that the state, if you're less than 50,000 people, and there's some other kind of criteria, the state administers your money. Others can get it straight from the feds. This goes through the state. We're not even clear where it's coming from. It could be commerce, most likely. But as always, dealing with the state, bless their hearts, but it's somewhat complicated as they sort out their own process for providing these resources to local jurisdictions. So we're on top of it. We're reading the most current information. We're talking with our federal representatives as we need to understand things, and we'll come forward to council as we're able. But I wanted to give you an update on those funds. Are there any questions at all? Okay, I'll go quickly. And finally, I just want to say that, the mayor was insistent the last time we published City Currents on including attention to volunteerism in the city and ways people could participate. So I think it's of great value that there are 2 individuals who volunteered for different functions on the consent agenda, but I just want to call out one. One is Diane Hoyer, who was quite easy to recruit her. She lives 2 doors down from me, but she has worked in other cities and is just a great resource, and hopefully will prove that to be the case. And also I met with Mr. Bob Leonard, who has a background in the airline industry, and he's interested in participating on the START. So I just want to acknowledge those individuals. I know the mayor has received some other applications that he'll be reviewing as we go forward. But at any rate, thank you very much for the time, and that concludes the city manager's report.
Thank you, Michael. At this point, will the clerk please read the consent calendar?
Item 1, approval of vouchers. Item 2, Juneteenth resolution. Item 3, Juneteenth proclamation. Item 4, CTEC stakeholders advisory roundtable position. Item 5, Human Services Advisory Committee appointment. And that concludes the consent calendar, Mayor.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? I see Councilmember Nutting's hand and Councilmember Bangs.
So moved.
So moved. Councilmember Bangs?
Second.
Okay, at this point, we look for council members who wish to remove any of the items, and it's my understanding that Deputy Mayor Mahoney would like to remove an item.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to remove item 4.
Okay. Is there any other item that council member wishes to remove? Okay, seeing none, we'll be voting on items 1, 2, 3, and 5. All those in favor, please raise your right hand until I call your name, or raise your hand until I call your name. Okay, I see Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Buxton, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. That passes 7-0. And that takes me back to item number 4 and Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to pull this item. I know Bob Leonard. He's a friend of mine, fine individual, and he brings something very unique that we lost when we lost Ken Rogers from the start. So I think he will be a very valuable asset, but he's a contributor to my campaign. And in all fairness and transparency, I'd like to recuse myself. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, seeing none, since Deputy Mayor Mahoney has recused himself, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Councilmember Nutting, did you have your hand up? No, okay, all right. Since Deputy Mayor Mahoney has recused himself, I will read the motion for consideration. And the motion is to confirm the mayoral appointment of Bob Leonard to a term on the START Committee effective immediately and expiring on December 31st, 2022. Okay, I've got hands up. Is it because you would like to make comments? Please shake your head. Okay, so Councilmember Nutting.
I was just gonna approve the motion.
Okay, and the second came from Councilmember Bangs.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. Okay, I see Councilmember Martinelli. I see Councilmember Harris. I see Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Buxton, and myself. Passes 6-0. Okay, this takes us forward to the congratulations, Mr. Leonard, you're on the line and welcome. This takes us forward to new business and the introduction of items of consideration. Is there anyone that has anything for tonight?
Point of order, Mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have to read the proclamation?
Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry, I got my things out of order. Appreciate it. Thank you. I will now read the Juneteenth proclamation into the record, and I apologize for my oversight. Now, therefore, the Des Moines City Council hereby proclaims June 19th as a day we celebrate Juneteenth 2021 in the city of Des Moines, Washington. Thank you, Councilmember Nutting, for that point of order. Now I move forward to the introduction of items for future consideration. I see Councilmember Harris.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Wait a second. Yeah, okay. So I think I'm unmuted now. Colleagues, I really, resisted mentioning this, but my questions during the administration report, the website is really, there are some serious problems with it functionally, okay? And I've been patient with the understanding that it was kind of a work in progress, but I feel a need to raise the issue because I don't want to wait until September or what have you, and then find out that the stuff that's not working properly hasn't been addressed. So I want to put it on the table, and if it's just a question of getting more money or or a professional to assist because everybody's too busy, I'd like the council to take that up now. Specifically, I can make this very simple for my colleagues and the public. If you type in any search term into the website, you don't get really any decent results. Try anything like the word ferry or building permit or what have you. It's a hash. And this is not in any way, I can hear it coming. This is not any slam against our great staff and everything. It's probably just a question of not having the resources. But the public uses that search all the time, and it returns nothing valuable about any council business or even even like if you want to find out if what the rules are for building a fence. it's surprisingly difficult. And I think we should address it now, give the relevant department, you know, the money or a part-timer or whatever it takes to fix, or at least get assurance that it's going to be fixed. So, yeah.
City Manager Matthias, do you have a comment?
I do. I think that that's a valuable comment. We will be happy to look carefully at that and come back to council with what we find and with what the process is. I think Councilmember Harris, we may not all exactly agree on what looks right, but I think that you raise issues that are fairly looked at.
Okay, so is there like, are we talking, you know, 2 weeks, 30 days? You know, I don't want to, I'm trying to be flexible here, but basically, yeah, you know, I guess what I was hoping for was an approval of the city manager to, you know, basically do the, you know, come up with some sort of proposal and come back within a certain time frame. So, yeah.
Well, you know, I'm hesitant to do that without knowing exactly what the issues are. So, you know, we can report back and tell you what we found, and then go from there. And I appreciate the council being supportive of doing that, but I think it's only fair that you guys get a sort of accurate status update.
Okay, and at the risk of, you know, sounding like whatever, the issue is that you know, just for the public, 90x% of the city's documents are in these PDFs, these Acrobat documents that, you know, we all use nowadays, and the content is not indexed. So if you, which can be done, it's just something that you have to have a human being do. You have to have a human being just basically process all of the, you know, agendas and packets and various things that the city has done over time, and just have them, you know, turned into searchable versions. And it's just a matter of, you know, minutes, hours, or whatever. It's fairly easy to quantify, and I'm sorry to, you know, try to, you know, tell people how to do their job, but that's really what it's going to turn out to be. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Just out of curiosity, I typed in a couple things. I typed in passenger ferry, got nothing. But in building permit, I got 60 choices, seemed pretty interactive. So I think it's hit or miss here. And I think what the city manager is saying is assessing it and coming back is about the best thing that we can ask for right now.
I too would agree. I think we need to take a look at what the concern is. And the fact is, there are costs behind everything. I have not heard anything negative about our website for quite some time, except for, you know, Councilmember Harris. So I don't have any a registered complaint from the public that says, you know, I don't like this or I don't like that. I will admit, I at times am even frustrated with Google because I put in certain searches and I look for things and I don't get what I want. But even if you have somebody indexing, you have to make sure that they index it appropriately to get the right responses. So I think we ought to let the city manager and the communications director work with our IT department, see if they can let them take a look at the scope of that and get back to us. I think, Michael, is it reasonable to say by August? I mean, or before?
Let me just say that we will provide as much input to the council as we can as soon as we are able, without a specific date, because I don't know what that looks like. It's also the time of year people start taking vacations and so forth. So
it's a fair statement. Okay, is there anyone else that has anything to introduce? Okay, seeing none, this will take us forward to board and committee reports. And tonight, the first report will come from Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Mayor. Farmers Market opens this Saturday, and of course, there's the ribbon cutting that we'll all be attending. I attended municipal facilities, and our chair, Councilmember Nutting, will report on that. Before I get into my public safety and emergency management meeting update, I would like to recognize that the Juneteenth proclamation, as well as designating Juneteenth as a city holiday, is an excellent step forward. We know that the state legislature passed House Bill, or substitute House Bill 1016, making Juneteenth a legal holiday beginning 2021. And I commend and I applaud the city for starting it June 16th, 2021. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I would say as a council member, citizen, and most importantly, as a Black woman, it is something that is absolutely overdue. So thank you. Now on to public safety emergency management. As the chief explained, the body cam beta test was provided as an update by Michael Graddon, who will be leaving us. I want to emphasize that, unfortunately, but congratulations. It was a test that was done like 24/7 because it was on both shifts. The staff or the officers actually provided some really great input. There were some good things and some bad things, and so I'm not going to beleaguer this, but some of the problems were background noise, being able to turn off the actual body cam during de-escalation, the battery life issues, and then, you know, the ability to really hear that noise issue is a problem. The good things are, that's just some of the bad things. The good things are that technology is moving extremely fast. And so in the future, we'll have some really good alternatives. And as City Manager Matthias said, they'll come forward with some information on costs and how to move forward with that. We did talk, Matt Johnson was introduced to us as IT support for PD, and everyone there seems to be extremely excited. Really good feedback from him as well today. The presentation that was provided to us can also be provided to the City Council. It was the potential implementation in the beginning when it was provided to the council for the body cam, and then some of the final review notes. So all of that information can be provided to the City Council as it relates to what the challenges were and some of the feedback by the officers. So I just want to mention that. The other thing was street racing ordinance was provided today, and and I'm not going to go through it all because it is going to come back to council, but we did request our attorney and assistant attorney to go back and update some of the considerations as it relates to the actual, trying to find it here, violation and at what class it should be. So they will go back, rewrite that, and then this will come forward to full council with a presentation, and then we can go from there as far as discussion and reporting on it. And then the report that was given by the chief today, as his updates, he talked about everything else that we essentially went over. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, Commander Graddon, you're absolutely going to be missed. It's been an incredible journey to get to know you and have you on the force, and congratulations and good luck in your career. For Isaac and Justin, congratulations there, and Bill to become an instructor and teach the classes coming up is a very notable thing. So I'm just glad our force is so commendable. We had on May 27th, we had a municipal facilities committee, and trying to look over my notes here. Went over the Marina Master Plan and dock replacement and some of the DNR stuff, and getting buy-in from the yacht club and members. We also had the marina redevelopment conversation that City Manager Matthias brought up a little bit, and that'll be guest moorage and dry storage. And on the land side of things, the RFQ was hoping to be out mid-June for the land side, including the marina steps and possibly a building for stack storage and other things. Also, Economic Development Committee met at the same right after that, and we got the same update for the marina redevelopment side, but we also got an update on our food truck program that, due to COVID, has kind of fallen by the wayside, and Ashley Young has picked this up and moved it forward. It sounds like there might be, we're going to have food trucks, but it doesn't sound like the whole thing's going to be kicked off this year, but next year it'll be May through October, Wednesday through Sunday, giving yield to the farmers market during the Saturday times, but mostly from Wednesday 11 to 7. Up to 6 food trucks could possibly be down in the marina. The city has revamped the ability to get permits and change the permit process for this to make it a little easier for food trucks specifically down in the marina, not on any other properties in the city or going through certain things, to make it a little easier for them to participate in the marina from those times. So, probably missed a few things, but most of everything will be coming to us on the June 17th docket for any ordinances and the marina bulkhead and all that other good stuff. So that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the going back to my thing about the search, basically what I want is, when a resident types in food truck, they get that fabulous presentation made at the last Economic Development Committee meeting, because people want the food trucks and there's a lot of interest in it. And so, that's the practical application. Regarding Juneteenth, just sort of anecdotally, I would like to recommend a book it's called On Juneteenth by Professor Annette Gordon-Reed, and I've asked the city clerk to put it in the packet. This is a fantastic book, okay? I mean, I came over from Ireland, but I just, when my kids were in high school, they did not hear about Juneteenth in Highline schools like 2002-ish or so. So this is progress, okay? I mean, this is the world moving forward. It's surprisingly slow, but it's a wonderful book, and can't recommend it enough. There's been a bunch of talk I've been getting over the last couple of weeks about, pride events, and like we've had some advisory committee appointments tonight. And again, I I echo the mayor's desire for more volunteerism, and the public does not clearly understand how much private groups like Destination Des Moines, Legacy, Rotary have done for this city. They do all the parades and all of the big things that people tend to think that the city does, but those are private groups, those are volunteers, and whatever we can do to get them, on board to do that, it's easier for the public to do those kinds of things actually than the city. And last but not least, I attended the PSRC executive board meeting last week, which the PSRC is the most important regional agency that you guys have never heard about. And basically they published their final regional aviation baseline study, which essentially sets the targets for SeaTac Airport over the next couple of decades. And they seem to be on board with doubling the number of flights over the last 20 years. They state that there will be double the demand for, passenger air travel. And that's always been the contentious thing, is what really is demand? And I just want to close, my little thing tonight by just saying that demand is a funny thing. We have been able to conduct a surprising amount of business via remote work over the last year. If every agency just basically continued to use Zoom for all of these conferences that we all used to fly to, that work just as fine via remote, you would cut down the need for commercial travel by like a third. I mean, no joke. Really, a lot of air travel can easily be replaced by just doing what we've been doing the last year. The cargo flights, the tourism, the trips to visit grandma in Boca, those are actually less than half of all commercial, planes. And if we could just shift thinking and keep doing what we've been doing, what our judge is doing with the court, shifting to a permanent, emphasis on remote work, you'd never have to expand SeaTac Airport again. And it's just a funny thing that that kind of thing is not even being discussed. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Buxton.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I would like to echo my colleagues, to Mike and Dave and Justin and Isaac and Bill. I'll put a little celebratory image there on my screen. Thank you so much for your work, and I'm really happy for you. So good job. In regard to the last couple weeks, on May 26th, I attended a fabulous, one of my favorite things of the whole year. It's relatively unnoticed in the community, but it's called Dollars for Scholars, and several organizations and private individuals in the community give money toward scholarships for the young people in our community, both from Highline, I think sometimes Federal Way High School, and Mount Rainier High School. And it's so great to see these young people come out with their families, and especially in a setting like this. It was up at the activity center. They pull in their cars. We do all these accommodations for keeping it safe, but it was so great to celebrate them. And I was there with Deputy Mayor Mahoney and Justin Kripe and Patty Richards. So I think possibly the Deputy Mayor may talk a little bit more about that, but great event. I was so proud of these young people in our community, our future leaders. We're going to be in some good hands in the future. This morning, I attended the Growth Management Policy Board meeting. It's a committee of PSRC, and I would say the bulk of the meeting was a robust discussion about our regional housing strategy. And I guess I would just say that in discussing housing stability, housing supply, and housing subsidies, the conversation still has not really coalesced regionally. These housing stability is a regional issue, but it varies greatly depending on the area in the region that any advocate is coming from. It's different on the east side. The community response, the community resource that's available, and even when you talk about development and where you're gonna put affordable housing and how many people you're gonna displace to do it. In the South End, in order to create affordable housing, sometimes we displace an entire community because instead of one house, we're possibly displacing a trailer park. So you've got different conversations going on at the same time. All I'm saying is it's a very difficult, it needs to be a regional approach, but even regionally, we have different issues and some people are incredibly passionate. Another thing I would like to say, for example, the City of Des Moines has done extremely well in accommodating our growth targets, are increasing our density, increasing the affordable housing and our subsidized housing, much more so than many of the northern cities or east side cities. We've done even well compared to other South County cities. And so some of these parameters that they want to make as a blanket over some of our cities, it's a very difficult conversation for especially when you've already worked really hard. And our city really has, our staff is incredible. Denise and Susan, under Michael's oversight, I just appreciate the work that our city has already done. And I'm always working to bring our voice to the table as we move forward in these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us forward to Councilmember Martinelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank our staff for the presentations they gave today and for updating us. I want to encourage everyone to go to kctreeequity.org. It's a petition that would request the Port of Seattle to refrain from their current plan to take over much of North SeaTac Park. They would essentially pave over some bike trails, cut down dozens of trees. And this petition is asking them to not do that. I want to thank Doreen Harper and Sheila Brush for bringing it to my attention. It's been signed by about 1,000 people so far. Again, that's kctreeequity.org. And then finally, just kind of expanding a little bit on what Councilmember Bang stated, I'm really excited that we're moving forward with the body cameras. As part of the presentation, quoting from that presentation, it was found that the body cameras improved accountability, improved evidentiary outcomes, and improved interactions between officers and the community. I think this is really important. I think it's a great step forward. I thank my colleagues on the Public Safety Committee for supporting it and for the Police Department for being open to it throughout the whole process. Again, I think it's a great step forward. And those are all the comments I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you. And go forward to Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. So on Dollars for Scholars, Tracy, you did it well, but Fatima Zavada, I want the council to know, because from a Hearts and Minds funds, we contribute every year. And I can't tell you how much this young woman was appreciative for the money. She'll be going to the finest institution in the land, Washington State University, of course, if you didn't know that, which even made me more thrilled. But she got to meet Sergeant Kripe and Sergeant Richards, and of course, Councilmember Bucks and myself. And I'm telling you guys, it's worth every penny and 10 times more to see what it did. I mean, she was emotional and in tears. And for somebody of her income and stuff, it's giving her an opportunity to a great future. So, and she understood what the scholarship was about and who Stephen J. Underwood was, which is just as important. So I want you guys to know we spent our money well there. I attended the police. I'm not going to get into it much. Chief Thomas, as always, likes to have some candid talks with citizens in the city. And particularly one of the subjects we talked about was some of the changes in the new policing from the state and what that means. And there are some concerning things, and probably later this summer, we'll probably get into some of that and what some of the ramifications of that are. I wanted to talk about something that's going to be really cool on July 17th. There's going to be an event between SR3 and our police. And what it's going to be is if you somewhere down by the farmer's market, in conjunction with the farmer's market, if somebody makes a donation to SR3, they have these really cute stuffed animals and high quality. And those animals will be given to the police upon every $30 or more donation. And what that'll do is that's going to go to our police force, and they can give to children in distress. So you talk about a double win. So get your money out, because I'm going to hold you up to it, because it's going to be a great cause. So put that on your calendar. As a veteran, and this is a little, I guess after the fact, but we didn't really get to talk about Memorial Day. And I just want to, say that honoring those that served this country and are no longer with us, along with their families too, that supported them. And I just want to make sure that that was known. That's why we all got Monday off. It wasn't for a towel sale. And the last thing is get vaccinated. King County put out 97% of current new COVID cases are from people that are unvaccinated. If that isn't science, I don't know what is. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. You guys are a tough act to follow. Again, you covered most everything that I was going to touch on, but one of the things that was overlooked, and she's going to be real quiet about it, is our city clerk and communications director, Bonnie Wilkins, has a lot to do with Dollars for Scholars. She's been working with that group for a number of years. She's been president at times, and I want to thank her again for the work that she does there. I also want to, I appreciate the feedback on knowing who got the scholarship and the fact that they actually knew who Officer Underwood was. That's wonderful. And I also think, and Deputy Mayor Mahoney talking about Memorial Day, we have had celebrations in the city for Memorial Day and Veterans Day. COVID impacts that, so does just resources in general. It is my hope that these celebrations and recognitions will come back, because I think it's very difficult to find a way to adequately say thank you, we will never forget, we will remember you. It just doesn't seem enough, folks, at least from my standpoint. So I think it's important that we bring it up and that we remember. So anyway, with that, that takes us to the end of our meeting. Our next meeting is on June 17th, 2021. And do I have a motion to adjourn? I see Councilmember Nutting and Councilmember Banks to second by hand. All those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Banks, Councilmember Buxton, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. That